Hey guys, I'm Becca. I'm a mental health therapist, a Christian soul care coach, and a public speaker. And today I just want to talk to you a little bit about the importance of dealing with your previous trauma and hurt. So I just want to start this video with saying whatever it is that happened to you specifically as a child, and most likely, if you are a victim of any kind of crime or abuse or something that was out of your control, it is not your fault. And it is okay to feel however you feel about it. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel heartbroken. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel whatever you feel. But at some point, we do want to heal from that, right? At some point, if we don't heal from what happened, if we don't follow the pain and heal from what happened in our past, we become prisoners. We become bound to that pain, to that anger, to that resentment, to that frustration, to the physiological response that happens when we think about these things. So a lot of times something will happen as a child and we don't always deal with it, whether it's because we didn't get the help that we needed, we didn't know how to respond to it, we didn't know how to properly process it. And so what happens is then it continues to show up as an adult. Even as an adult, you start to still have that same response or that same feeling or the triggers that happen. And you may not even be aware that it's happening. So even though you are maybe in a 35-year-old body, you could be showing up in response to trauma as your 5-year-old self, your 7-year-old self, your 12-year-old self, right? Let me give you an example. So let's say you were 6 years old when you were traumatized, you were victimized in some way, someone hurt you, someone abused you. And let's say, 30 years later, you're in a relationship and all of a sudden that person, totally unrelated to what happened to you when you were 6, hurts you or makes you feel similarly to that. So instead of showing up as an adult and showing up with any kind of emotional reasoning or emotional communication skills, any of those things, you shut down or you lash out in anger or you start sobbing or you have a grown-up temper tantrum or whatever the case may be. That is you showing up as a 6-year-old because in that moment, trauma may have stopped your development in that way, or it may have stunted your emotional growth at 6 years old. So even though you're 35, you're having this response and you're showing up as your 6-year-old self. So it is important to go back to that 6-year-old self and recognize what happened to her or him was not okay. What happened to her or him was not your fault. And really work through those types of things. Now, typically this stuff takes work in therapy. Typically this isn't something that you want to do on your own. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can work through these things on your own, but it is really beneficial to get a therapist to be able to really dive deep into this. I tell my people, let's follow the pain, right? So if my arm is not broken, right now I don't have a broken arm, and I push on it, it doesn't hurt, right? There's no pain. But if my arm was broken and I was pushing on it, it would cause me pain. So then I would need to look to see I would need an x-ray to see where the pain is. But the issue is a lot of times we have an infection in our body, right? And we keep giving it pain pills, not antibiotics. So I hope that you're following with what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is you can have this pain and this hurt and this emptiness that happened from childhood that wasn't properly dealt with, something that wasn't your fault. And instead of getting that help and dealing with it properly, you medicate yourself. So that's how you end up on, drugs, alcohol, eating, sexual relationships, unhealthy, abusive relationships, gambling, right? Pornography, like whatever the case may be, you are medicating. And what's happening is that infection is still killing you from the inside. And so if you don't deal with the things that have happened and you don't go deep and ask the hard questions and work through those things that are absolutely not easy to work through, you will always be bound by that happened in the past. So this is your confirmation. If you're watching this is your confirmation today that it is so important to reach out to a therapist, reach out to someone who specializes in whatever happened. So, if you had sexual trauma as a kid, reach out to someone who specializes in the sexual trauma. If you had physical abuse, reach out to someone who specializes with that. and just really see if you can dig deep and figure out, how is this showing up in my life now? How is this impeding my functioning? How is this hurting me? Is there anything that I'm doing that I could potentially hand down to my children that is unhealthy? Anything that I need to deal with, so that you can be set free and healed from that pain that you've been carrying around for so long. So I hope that this is an encouraging video to you to just make that first step. You don't have to go into the therapist's office sharing every single thing that you know, right? You don't have to go in there and the very first time blurt everything out that's happened to you. You can build that therapeutic rapport. You can build the relationship with the therapist and get comfortable and share what you're comfortable sharing until you're able to come to that point where you can share what's really going on or what happened in the past. So that is my encouragement to you. Pick up the phone, do the first brave thing, and just make that appointment.